Our first post is from Dragana's Barbies. My F25 husband, M26, doesn't want me to put my maiden name on our front door. How do I deal with this? Hello. Me and my husband are renovating my grandpa's apartment. The apartment is being passed down generations. It was my grandfather's, then my father's, now it's mine. It's also under my name as I'm the third generation living there. We've been debating getting a piece engraved with our names and last name for our front door. By marriage I took his last name. And I said we should put our names and the last name we share. And under that we can put my family maiden name with smaller letters just so people would know that the apartment is still in the family. Not only other people but also it means to me and our family. My husband strongly disagreed and was kinda rude, saying I should put only our names and his last name. I didn't like his tone also. I might sound selfish and you could judge me for saying this, but this isn't his dad's or grandfather's apartment. It means the world to me that my dad decided to give the apartment to me and to us together so we could share our lives there just as my grandparents and my parents did. I feel like I'm losing part of myself and part of my family by not putting our family name on the door. My grandfather worked very, very hard to achieve all of what I have right now. And it's kind of small appreciation. I love my husband and I love my new last name, but also I can't just let go of my past self and my other family. A little update: we had a talk last night and I explained how I felt and how much it meant to me putting the name on that door. He still holds a strong opinion about it and is feeling very insecure. He said that me putting my maiden name meant me being dominant. When I talked about our family and the traditions, he questioned his family and his traditions. I took his last name willingly, but when I mentioned my grandfather he asked me what about his grandfather and his last name? And it just flew out of my mouth and I said, well, it's not my fault your grandfather didn't leave anything to you. This is my grandfather's achievement and it doesn't sit right with me having your name there but not mine. Needless to say, he still disagrees with that whatever I say, so in the end I won't put anyone's names. Our next post is from 2JZ Gita. My 35 male, BL, 38 male, drunkenly pushed me off a golf cart he was recklessly driving on Halloween, causing my wife, 34 female, and daughter, 22 MO, to fall too. Her family wants us to get over it for the holidays. How do we handle their pressure to move on when we feel disrespected and hurt? As the title says, we're being expected to get over what happened so my mother-in-law can have a normal holiday season. We arrived at my sister-in-law's house after trick-or-treating with our daughters. They live in a big enough neighborhood where you have to take a golf cart to go from house to house. The first thing that could have avoided all this was speaking up about the golf cart being overcrowded. I got on, and my sister-in-law, who was driving at the time, started complaining about how the cart was leaning. She did this for a few minutes before my brother-in-law came over from their family's other golf cart. I offered to drive, but they ignored me, they heard me, made eye contact, everything. To help balance the cart, I stood on the side, hanging onto the roof. Everything was fine until the drive back. My wife was anxious about my BL's driving, and he wouldn't stop, no matter how much I, my wife, and her sister asked him to. My wife and I got off at one point because we thought he was going to hit something. He knew it wouldn't, but we had no idea since we are not familiar with their golf course. We got back on, and my wife started to panic more while holding our daughter. My BL then reached over, grabbed my shirt, and started pushing and pulling me to mess with her, causing me to fall off the cart. I landed, rolled over, looked back, and saw my wife fall off while holding our daughter. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt, but at that moment, I had no idea, and I saw red. I'm a nurse, so I quickly assessed my wife, who was freaking out, and confirmed she had no major injuries. My SAL had my daughter, and I took her, noticing bruising and scrapes on her head, arms, and legs. I told my wife we needed to get her to the hospital ASAP. We got back to the house, packed up, and left. On the way, my MIL called and told us to come back, saying we didn't need to go to the hospital. I yelled at my wife to hang up, as she was having a panic attack and blaming herself for what happened. Everything came back okay at the hospital, and we were discharged. The next day, my wife talked to her parents and told them things would need to be different, and we needed some time away until we felt ready. My BL showed up at our house unannounced the next day. He came in, said sorry, and told me I could say whatever I needed to him. I told him everyone who knows him knows this situation wouldn't be handled the same way if I had done this to his wife and daughter. He broke someone's jaw at a bachelor party last year for saying something about his daughter and was sued. He denied that and didn't have much else to say. Later that night, my wife's parents showed up. After a bit, they started telling us that because it's family, we have to get over it and shouldn't break up the family over this. I repeated what I'd said to my BAL and added that I've felt disrespected in general. My SIL and BAL have a ton of money, and my in-laws don't treat my wife and me with the same respect they give them. My MIL has made comments about my job and income in front of family and friends, and my BL has threatened me physically before and constantly talks down about my job and intelligence. My FIL was the only one I hadn't had issues with, until that night. We went back and forth about how it was out of line for them to come into our house and defend my BL, but it went nowhere. I told them that if anyone else on the cart had fallen, they probably would have sued my BL, and my FIL lost it. He started yelling at my wife, as if it was her fault we mentioned a lawsuit. I told him to direct it at me, because that thought did cross my mind. I said the only thing my BL cares about is money, and I wanted him to hurt as much as I have. He could have killed my wife and daughter, and no amount of money could bring them back. After a few more minutes, they left. I told them I'm not suing because of the issues it would cause in the family, but I also said my family is very unhappy with them for both the incident and their response. I haven't spoken to them since, and they haven't reached out to me directly to see how I'm doing. Our holidays are going to be different, but my MIL is giving my wife a hard time about the new plans. We're not doing the usual traditions her mom insists on. My wife and I have talked about needing to meet with her sister and BAL to address this, but we don't know how to go about it. My wife hasn't left the house since, because she doesn't want people to notice her or our daughter's wounds. She's seeing a therapist and just saw a psychiatrist because she's been anxious and feels like she's going crazy. I've told her that no one is blaming her, and she did nothing wrong. TLDR, my BL drove a golf cart recklessly while my wife, our young daughter, and I were on it. Despite us repeatedly asking him to slow down, he continued driving dangerously and even grabbed my shirt as a joke, which caused me to fall off. My wife and daughter fell off next, leading to minor injuries and a hospital visit. My MIL pressured us not to go to the hospital, and now she's pushing us to just get over it for the sake of a normal holiday season. We feel disrespected, as the in-laws are downplaying the incident and defending my BL, who has a history of aggressive behavior. My wife is struggling with anxiety and guilt, and we're unsure how to address this situation with the family without causing further drama. Our next post is from Throw RA Dealer. I, 28M, had a change of heart when it comes to how many kids I want, breaking my wife's, 27F, heart. How can I fix this? Before my wife, 27F, and I, 28M, were engaged, we talked for hours and hours about what we wanted for our future together and for ourselves. We had been together for almost 10 years before we were engaged, been through it all, and we knew that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. The one sticking point was children. We both wanted children. She wanted 2 to 3 children, while I leaned more toward 1 to 2. During these conversations, she stressed that she did not want to be a mother to an only child, if she could help it, as she believes that siblings are an important part of child development, and she was passionate about having a multi-child family. She made it clear that she did not want me to propose to her if I did not want multiple kids, and at the time I was completely down with that. I had always wanted kids myself, and her bottom range fit perfectly with my upper range, so I had no problem with that and we moved forward with the engagement. Everything went perfectly after that, a great engagement, followed by a great wedding, followed by a great first year trying to conceive our first child. We were ultimately successful and I am a father to a 1-year-old son. Despite these blessings, and they are blessings, I absolutely love this boy with all of my heart. This first year as a father has been very difficult for me mentally. My wife and I tag-teamed the hell out of those first 3 to 6 months, we made it through and these last 6 months have been better, but my desire and readiness to have a second child has taken a dramatic hit, and I'm not entirely sure I want to have a second child at all. Whenever I think about the possibility of having a second child, on top of what we are currently dealing with for our first child, I get this sinking feeling in my stomach and I just can't imagine anything positive coming from that decision, which sucks. I know how much a second child means to my wife, but I don't know if it's right to go through with conceiving a second child that I am so uncertain of. Meanwhile, my wife is ready to start that journey again, and is noticing my hesitancy. We have had multiple conversations over the last couple of months, and recently those conversations have come to a head. She is saying that I've broken her heart and the promises we made before the engagement, and has mentioned the desire for relationship counseling, which I have agreed to. She is an absolutely fantastic mother and a kick-ass partner, and I really hate putting her and our relationship through all of this. I don't like the idea that I am the one that gets the final say in all of this, that I can just make this decision and she just has to deal with it. None of this is right or fair, and it's all keeping me up at night. I just don't have anyone else to talk this over with, but I feel like I really need to let this out. TLDR, promised my now wife that I wanted more than one kid before I proposed to her, had a difficult time dealing with one baby and now I might not want another, breaking promise to my wife. Next up is a post from Polaroid photo of a cat. My 28F, brother, 26M, stole the majority of my clothing and sold it to build his online thrift store business. How do I handle this? When I moved back to my dad's house after losing my house last spring, I brought the majority of my clothing with me and stored it in my room. I left everything in my room and packed one bag to travel across the country for a work opportunity in the summer. When I came home at the beginning of this year, my bedroom had clearly been picked through and my brother told me he cleaned it for me. When I asked where all of my clothes were, he told me he'd stored them in the attic and I had no reason not to trust him, although I couldn't understand why he would do that. I had immediately launched into another job that dominated my time and knew a lot of my stuff was still in a storage unit, so I didn't really think about it. I told myself it was either in the attic or still in storage. I cleaned out my storage unit and realized that I had actually brought most of my wardrobe back. At the same time, my brother moved out. I asked him about the stuff in the attic over texting, and he told me he thought more stuff was in there than there was, and apologized. At this point I realized he had lied. I knew he had an online thrifting business spanning across multiple platforms. I couldn't find most of his accounts but I found one and he was actively selling several things of mine and I could see in the history that he had been selling things quite soon after I left for my seasonal job in 2023. However, the history was only of items where the buyer had left reviews. I confronted him in person and he doubled down and said he donated many of my items that I'd previously left behind when I was in a stage where I was moving often for school and storing things in my bedroom. He claimed he hadn't touched anything since 2022 and had no idea where any of these newer items were. It's incredibly obvious he's lying. He never admitted to selling anything online and gave me his account info for things like Depop and Etsy. I only knew his eBay account, much later in the evening. At that point I saw he'd removed the items from eBay he was actively selling that were mine, so I'm sure he did the same for the other websites. My dad refuses to get involved and I'll get kicked out of his house if I file a police report. What I really want is to see a history of the listings to give me peace of mind and confirm everything that was stolen so I can let it go. I also want my brother to repay me several $1,000s at least for the items. Individual pieces were worth upwards of $100 each and I think at least 100 items have been stolen. I don't really know how to further confront my brother since all he's done is lie, and I don't feel like I have a hand to play since I can't threaten legal action. I'm completely shocked because my brother essentially built his business off of selling clothes he stole from me and is seeing no recourse from it. My trust is completely broken and I feel gut-punched. He still regularly visits the family house. TLDR, my brother stole and sold thousands of dollars worth of clothes from me to build his online thrifting business. He will not admit it and either lies directly or speaks in half-truths about it. I have no idea what to do or how to handle my relationship with him going forward since I still see him on a regular basis. Our final post today is from one-time advice request. Update, I, M27, found a video of my girlfriend, F26, and I am struggling with it. How do I approach this? Some people had asked for an update, so I guess this will be it. Can T figure out how to post the link to the original post, but if you need it just click on my profile. It is the only post as this account is a throwaway created only for this. I'd like to thank to all the people that gave actual advice on what I asked on my post instead of judging me for whatever reason they found worthy of judgment. The advice of listening to her instead of turning the conversation into an interrogation that was pointed to me by several people prevented me to actually complicate our talk. TLDR, for those that just want the outcome, after our talk I feel I got what I needed to gain a solid footing and we are still together. Not gonna pretend that it is all roses and sunshine, there is some trust that needs to be rebuilt and I still need to process the image of the video. It is still fresh so my brain keeps pushing it forward, but I feel that I just need some time to let my brain shake it off. The original post was long, this update might be a bit Oswell. She read this before I posted, so all IV writin' was with her consent. Got a call from a old friend of mine to check up on me because my GF had called him worried about my behavior of the last 2 days. When I said it was something that I would need to talk to her, he said, "That is fine, just remember that, Kat, is not, Mary, an ex of mine. Don T, bring that baggage with you, if you have an issue talk it out, but Don T, put on your GF someone else's blame." It was like a light switch that flipped. I had been so freaked out that didn't T even realize that a lot of what I was feeling was past trauma that was being brought up front and boosting my reactions, basically afraid of going through something similar, again. When she got home she was already wanting to speak with me. I told her that if she wanted to take a shower I would make some tea and we would talk. I told her that I loved her, I wasn't accusing her of anything or mad at her. I was going through something and she was the only one I could speak that could help me move past it. That I needed her to be honest and not try to hide things from me. Once she agreed, I just asked, when you gave me the external HD for me to get those photos, were you aware that there is a video in there of you and someone that I think is, Mark, having S? That is not possible, I deleted that years ago. That is what she said before breaking down in tears. She hugged me, I hugged back by instinct mostly. In between the sobbing and crying she begged me to not get mad and let her explain that I repeated that I wasn't mad, I would hear what she wanted to say, she just needed to be honest with me. Once she calmed down she told me that. It happened around 3 weeks after her 19th birthday. She had broken up with her high school BF about 2 months prior. They were both pretty drunk hanging out at her apartment living room after a night out and things just escalated into physical. She said that in the next morning they both felt extremely self-conscious about the all thing. Mark was really freaked out that she might think he had taken advantage of her because she had a recent breakup. She was concerned that Mark had feelings for her because she only saw him as a friend. They ended up agreeing that it was a drunken hookup that none of them wanted to follow up on. At one point Mark asked her if she remembered making a video. They checked both their phones and there was a video and photo on her phone that she deleted then. She never saw them again and believed them to be gone. According to her they even avoided each other for the next couple of months because of the awkwardness and nothing else happened. I had been watching her while she spoke, she kept eye contact while speaking, seemed tense but nothing unexpected. All in all I saw no reason not to believe her. The handcuffs and all? Joke birthday gift from her girlfriends. it just happened to be there when they went to the room and they thought it would be fun to open the set. We only talked about this yesterday. At the time I had other more pressing questions. As for not telling me in the first place. When she started dating her ex, Mark was out of the country, so she never mentioned that happening to her ex. When Mark came back, her ex was already showing signs of being jealous and controlling without much reason, so she decided to throw gasoline into the fire. Mark started dating a girl and mentioned that they had been together once a long time ago because she asked. His GF told her ex-BF in the middle of a group outing. Her ex exploded, she ended up breaking up with him, things went a bit out of control to the verge of harassment/stalking. Mark's relationship imploded sometime later because the girl saw Kat breaking up with her ex as proof that she has feelings for you, and became a bit crazy. She never told me because, in the beginning she wasn't sure how I would react and was afraid I went her ex path, and by the time she figured I wouldn't go that path, it had been so long that she just let it go. She apologized, admitted that was a bad call on her part and should have told me and let me decide how comfortable I was with it. When she spoke about her ex being abusive, I gently asked if he was the reason for her issue with being held by the wrists. He wasn't. He was verbally and psychologically abusive but was never physical. It was someone else after she broke up with her ex, someone that belonged to her friend's group. Apparently he had a secret crush on her, was drunk at a party, they were alone in a small balcony and she friend-zoned him when he proposed. He got close, she placed her hands on his chest to try and stop him and he held her by the wrists and pinned her against a wall. One of her friends saw it through the window and helped. The guy was cut off by the friend's group and last time she knew he left to work somewhere else. Still, she was aware that if they were alone it might have been a lot worse, and when I did it to her it was just a response to the memory. Also, this actually explained some behaviors of hers when we started dating. She looked like she needed time to make sure she was comfortable to be alone with me. Now I know why. After this I was drained. Well, I guess anyone that actually read this far will be Oswell. I went silent for a good while, just replaying everything. She came to me, held my hands and apologized again, said she couldn't make what I saw disappear, but it was really in the past and she just needed me to tell her what else she could do to make things easier for me. Honestly, at that point my brain was shot. Then she did something that caught me completely off guard. She called Mark on the phone, placed him on loudspeaker while motioning me to be quiet and asked him if he could speak or was close to his GF. His reply was to me telling. He said, "That is an odd thing to ask, I am alone. Is something wrong?" She told him that I had seen the video. Basically, the entirety of the conversation confirmed everything she told me. I didn't say anything, so he didn't knew I was listening. After freaking out with, "I saw you delete that crap," he referred to it as a one-time meaningless thing, and a drunk hookup that keeps coming back to haunt us, was also worried that I would tell his GF like my crazy ex. So after all this she asked me if I needed space, but I told her I wanted her near. If she didn't want to be with me in bed I could sleep in my study, but she wanted to be close Oswell. We spent yesterday together, didn't go to the party as it was planned, talked and just kept each other close. She and Mark will take a break on their friendship, he told his GF, which took it better than me, but they decided some distance is better at this point. My GF also offered to only go out with the group with me present regardless of Mark being there or not. Other than that I just asked her to give me some time and to not try initiate for now. I want to be completely clear-minded and release this stress that built up before that. This is it, gonna take some time, but I feel that I have the ground under my feet, so I am optimistic. I think that now, after talking it out, I just need a bit of time to let it settle.
That's all for today, folks. If you enjoyed, hit that thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more wild Reddit stories. I'll see you in the next one. Take care and have an amazing day. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah.